Hello and welcome. Well, today we are discussing how energy crisis is killing business. And I don't think you don't need me to tell you. Even if you're not doing business, you can only feel it. The confidence in the system is low. The atmosphere in terms of business, everybody is complaining. Either they are putting too much diesel in their fuel or patronage is gone down. But somehow, mysteriously, the financial sector is booming. So it makes you wonder, well, where are they borrowing the money to go? Because if they're borrowing the money to do business, business should be booming. So where is the disjoint? But most importantly, what should the state do to ginger up confidence and bring back economy? Because the whole country depends on its economy, so that at the end of the year, we can say we pulled that GDP or this GDP. And at this rate, where we are losing over 900 million cedis a year because of energy crisis, what then is going to happen in the future? With me to discuss these issues, sat right next to me is Suleimana Mohammed, who's a financial research specialist. You're welcome.
Thank you.
And then I have Samuel Seshi, who's a financial expert. You're welcome, my brother.
Thank you.
Good. We go straight into the conversation. Now, Suleiman, let me start with you. Was it to be expected?
Yes, I believe the drop in business confidence was expected given the energy crisis we're facing. Some companies can no longer operate for 12 hours every day. They have to close down on some days that they don't have power supply. Secondly, the bigger companies are also suffering with the depreciation of the cedi. It has greatly affected their operations. And so we saw some companies laying down some stuff and cutting down production. So the drop in confidence was to be expected.
Samuel, the extent to which business confidence is low, is it relative to what's happening? Because sometimes you hear in the media that, oh, maybe you are overreacting, or you are, playing politics with it, but is it balanced? I mean, the amount of people losing their work and the slowdown in the economy and the energy crisis, you think it's balanced, or you think it's artificially induced?
No, it's not balanced. It's not artificially induced as well. I think the reality on the ground is that most people cannot spend so much money. Instead of investing in their business to expand it or to employ more people, especially where we have the youth who coming off universities and sitting at home not doing anything, they rather have to turn them home because they cannot expand, because they don't have the money to kind of like expand their businesses to employ people. So I don't think that it is just artificial, because the reality of the ground is that the companies spend so much money to buy diesel or fuel. And in so doing, people from outside or investors, when they think of this thing, they might not want to come to invest in our economy. Thereby, most people not getting job and standard of living falling.
Well, how come the financial sector is doing well?
I think they are doing well because people think, or businesses think, that when they kind of invest or they go to the financial sector and go and borrow, they kind of like try to expand or try to mitigate the pressures they are feeling by buying the fuel or diesel to run their generators. But when they go to do it, it doesn't. But the financial sectors always want their money, or they have cost of borrowing. They always want it, and they are going to enjoy. That is why that sector is continuing booming. Yes, that's what I can say.
I mean, you are in the financial sector.
Yeah.
So, I mean, why are you guys making money? And the guys that you're giving the money to are not making money.
Okay, thank you. The business of banking is more about banks mobilizing deposits and then giving it out as loans. And basically, how well you do depend on two things. One is your cost of funding. You must be able to lower your cost of funding, and secondly, you must be able to maximize the return on your assets. And over the past year, you could have seen that interest rates have been going up, which means that the lending rate on loans has been up. And then the impact on the economy is that some businesses might decide that they are not going to go for loans because interest rates are high. And you see most banks placing a lot of money with the central bank in risk-free treasury bills, where rates went as high as over 27% in the course of the year. Right now, it's between 22 to 26%. But if I can get a risk-free rate of that level, it is good enough for you to make some good income.
So you think that's where the financial sector is making the chunk of their money from?
Yes, obviously they are making it from the deposit with the central bank, where they make risk-free interest income. And secondly, most banks have also been able to manage the quality of their assets very well. You will know that in the economy in which we are, where companies laid off staff, it means that banks that give out loans to people, some of them might not have been able to pay as a result of losing their employment. But most of the banks managed to manage that risk very well, so their NPLs were not high. Indeed, some of them were down. But of course, that is not across the bank. We had some banks where NPLs were higher, which means that they didn't manage that risk very well. But overall, a lot of them managed the risk very well to the extent that they were still able to generate good income.
Sabi, how do you stimulate an economy like ours? What do you do? Do you just let it slide to its natural death and then it starts falling, or do you need to artificially ginger something up?
Like, our economy is like a developing country or economy, if I should put it that way. And government need not sit idle like that to see it go down the drain. So government need to do a lot. For instance, government could, some things that most companies import to these countries, and government realizing that they are in this country that they can work on so much, government can just give them some tax rebates, reduction in taxes, so that they can be able to, improve upon what they are doing and then grow the economy for us. So government needs, one, to reduce taxes for those companies, for instance, who import a lot of things to produce for us. That's one thing I think the government can do. If the government is still idle to do that, a lot of people will, the citizens of the country will become impoverished the more. Standard of living will go down. So government needs to, at least, where he thinks that we have resources, natural resources that we can harness to improve, maybe the lot, because it's the energy crisis, we basically are talking about energy crisis, the government can squeeze some areas. For instance, an area where we have to spend so much money to solve problems on, government can just squeeze money from those areas that, like entertainment. I guess sometimes government kind of gives some lot of money for this entertainment industry. Government can take that money and give it to some businesses to just grow. I support them because in the United States some time ago, when businesses are going down, government have a way of kind of like investing in it and resuscitating them, and by so doing, they grow and they come alive again.
We're going to touch on that thing again, but let me come to Sulemana. Sulemana, on the 5th of May, there was a whole forum. Minister of Trade was there, and the whole business fraternity were complaining about, policy rate being high. Come 13th of May, it was announced that, hey, the rate has gone up. Could the central bank have waited a little bit, considering the sentiment and everybody complaining and lamenting, or this is it had to go up?
Basically, if I look at the framework based on which the central bank is operating its monetary policy, it had to go up. In Ghana, we use what we call the inflation targeting monetary policy. So the aim of the policy is to bring down inflation. So basically, when inflation goes up, you see that the central bank will have to raise their policy based on inflation expectations. And expectations for inflation has been high due to high cost of imported goods leading to imported inflation. And you also realize that we are about to begin the farming season for Ghana, and around this time, cost of foodstuff is also high. So the inflation expectation has been high, so it was necessary for the central bank to raise, although people thought they would have waited a bit. But
which is more important, inflation or confidence? Because I'm sure that's what you have to judge on. That, look, do I give these guys confidence to go out there and spend money, or do I reduce their confidence and bring the inflation down? Those are the options he has to make.
Yes, obviously. I think you are right on that, because as you raise the policy rate, what happens is that the rate on treasury bills will also go up along with that. And that will encourage more banks and even private businesses to place their funds with the central bank because interest rates are now attractive instead of investing that in the productive sectors of the economy. So basically, of course, that will have an impact on business confidence.
As a state, as a government, looking at the businesses, I don't see that there's a plan, because the amount of money people spending now just to power generators, just to produce anything, you wonder how you're going to be competitive at this cost. I mean, somebody can bring something from heaven, they'll still get here cheaper than what you can produce it. So at the back of that, the least you'd want there would be some credit to expand. Now the credit too is expensive. So I mean, what is the plan for the business? I mean, what is the thinking? I don't know.
I think that businesses can do it this way. For instance, the challenges we are having, like with the doomsaw and inflation, we have, and like Suleiman Riley said, that people when interest rates are high and then treasury bills are high with the government, people decide to put their money there, and then it will reduce kind of inflation, like Riley said. The plan they should have to do is that, one, I think they should ration things that they produce, so that when the goods are not so many on the market, people will not tend to just go buy other thing. If I should put it this way, as saying that, for instance, because of how expensive the cost of borrowing is, and inflation is being so high, and whether you import at a cheaper rate or you import some things so cheap to this economy or that, what you need to do is that at least try and ration what you produce, because we don't have constant power. For instance, where I work, we spend over 47,000 cedis to buy diesel to run a generator.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of money. 47,000 cedis. Just for about 3 weeks, we spend that.
Wow.
Yes, 47,000 cedis to run where I work. And it's becoming difficult. So what we do is that on peak hours, we put on the generator. Less peak hours, we just kind of like try to manage like that, open windows for air conditioners we put on and stuff like that. So the business needs to plan, as in look at when we will have power, which is cheaper for them to produce, and then when we don't have powers, maybe power, they just try to produce little.
You see, but if you're making something like chocolate, if you're making something like beer, Guinness and all that stuff, once the process starts, there's no stopping. You say, well, when the lights comes on, I'll continue making my chocolate. It has to start to finish. So they normally, even when they start production, just switch to, the generator, because you don't know when the power is going to go off. And you can't risk losing all. So sometimes when you say you should strategize, they are stuck.
Yeah, I think ECG is not helping us to give us a plan for us to follow, or businesses to follow. That if you say you're going to turn off light within this period, like 6 hours, maybe from 6 to 10 p.m., religiously follow that, so the business get informed and get to know about it, so that time, within when the light is off and light will come on, all the employees will gather them together and produce that time. That is why business need to plan and say, where we have light, which is going to be cheaper, we need to produce at that time and produce a lot on the market, or store it for us. Because if you're going to say, like for instance, the example you cited, if you're producing chocolates, and because you know that as you're producing the chocolate, the light will go off and it might get spoiled, what you need to do is that you use the gen set, which is running for you, you're assured of that. If ECG could give us a correct timetable, reliable one, of course, then the company will know that, okay, you strategize and say, let's just produce when we have power. And then it will work well.
I mean, Suleiman, so my question then is that we are in a near hopeless situation, because you depend on all these factors to come together, so that the producer can produce. ECG will take their lights whenever they are happy. Bank of Ghana has raised this policy rate because inflation is going up. Diesel is now even gone up. I mean, it's a near hopeless situation if you're running a business, especially a private one. Well, I mean, what's your position? I mean, you are the economy?
This is what I think about the situation in terms of power management. As he said, there is the need for us to have a reliable timetable from ECG, because what we've realized is that their timetable is not reliable. Secondly, I think ECG will need to improve on their technology. I believe that it is not impossible for us to have a system where businesses can have power in daytime, and then homes or the domestic power can be off during daytime, then it will come back at night, and then businesses will have power during daytime.
And for that to happen, we have businesses mixed into residential areas.
Yes, if ECG has the right technology, they should be able to do this. Irrespective of where the businesses are located, they should be able to give them power daytime and take the power off at night if they have the right technology. And secondly,
I know a place where this is a residential, and then next door is a massive yogurt factory. Okay. I mean, it was a residential house that's now been converted into a yogurt factory. I mean, huge yogurt factory. I don't want to mention the name, churning out, bottles and bottles and bottles of yogurt, and they literally just live next door. So that's become a small industry within a residential area. It will be very difficult to say, look, I'm switching off this one and keeping this guy on. I mean, that would be too technical.
Yes, that's why I said if they have the right technology, they should be able that when I go for power and say, okay, I'm using it for business or I'm using it for domestic, then ECG, if they have the right technology, they should be able to track me that this person is using it for business, this person is using it for domestic, and based on what I'm using it for.
Technology will not be in our lifetime. This technology will not be in our lifetime.
I think it might become very soon.
I think that it is where we have to demarcate areas in our country. Like, for instance, we have an industrial area that we say that this is residential area.
But that's now so that church, one religious area.
Yes, so that what Sullivan is saying can be applicable.
Yeah, then you have a whole area.
You have area. Yeah, we have a whole area like that. But where we have houses like what you rightly said, that it's difficult to say this particular house. Let me tell you, or this same line, because they connect on the same line or pole. It becomes difficult. So unless we have a plan for, let's say now that we are trying to say decentralization, where we have district assemblies, metropolitan assemblies and stuff like that. When they are giving permits to people and say, oh, this area is demarcated for this, or this area is demarcated for that, so that when they are connecting power to those areas, you know that it's going to be constant an industrial area or production area or construction something area, then we know that.
But then I also want to add that we realized that when government was in trouble, some years back, they introduced new taxes, such as the fiscal stabilization tax, to businesses to get more money to help them finance government business. And I think now that businesses are also in trouble, I believe it is not out of question for the government to also show some gesture, as he mentioned earlier, through some tax rebates, so that they can reinvest those money into the supplementary power that they are using to boost production.
I wonder if government would do that, knowing very well that if I gave him that money, 47,000 of that money is going to go into diesel in the next 3 weeks. Do I want to give him the money for that? Because you know clearly that they're taking the money to go and buy diesel just to run. And therefore, whatever it is they are producing is not competitive anymore. Yeah. It's a very dire situation out there. I mean, what does the state do?
You see, sometimes I think that government needs to look at the needs of its citizenry, so that if my citizenry needs, let's say, constant power, or we need food, or we need, let's say, clothing, or we need a particular kind of item. For instance, the real estate industry is now booming so much. Government can at least allow those doing those business for themselves to give them some tax rebate, having clear, proper documents, so that they can at least import solar panels. Because when you import solar panels to this country, you might pay half of the price you bought it outside to this country before you can install. So if those kind of real estate, for instance, can be given that kind of leeway because every middle-income person now wants to own his house. And so when we want to just promote that real estate industry, government can come into that area and help them by, you people should use what is called the solar panels, and we'll put pressure off the normal ECG thing that we have, so that we have that for main construction or industrial or manufacturing companies. So you can have constant power for them, and maybe homes as well.
Okay, I'm going to take a break here. When I come back, we'll be talking to George Ofori, who is the president of Ghana Union of Traders Association, to hear what the traders are saying on there. And then we'll come back to the studio and find out, are there any immediate solutions, or we should just grin and bear it until this circumstance, or if I say this situation, passes away. Stay tuned, we're coming back. Very much for staying, and we're discussing the energy crisis, which is killing the business industry, basically, well, killing business in Ghana. And this is all on the back of the IEA Business Confidence Survey, and which is they done a survey, and obviously the survey says that the confidence in business is really going down. Why? Because the cost of doing business is too high. The inconvenience, the bureaucracies added on top of that doesn't make it a nice story. But I'm going to go on the phones and speak to George Ofori, who is president for Ghana Union of Traders. Come again. Have I got him on the phone, or have I got him on the phone? Oh, okay, sorry, I don't have him on the phone yet. I don't have him on the phone, so let me come to the studio. I just want to find out, let me start with you, Sulemana. Is there any immediate solution to things like these, or, it's only going to be a long term?
Actually, for things like that, we need to have short-term and long-term solutions. The long-term solutions will solve everything, and then the short-term solutions will provide temporary solutions before we get the long-term solutions. And in terms of the short-term solution, the government actually outlines some short-term solutions, but the issue then is the implementation of those solutions. I think a few weeks back, I heard that the government was planning to distribute solar panels to SMEs so that they could depend on that when ECG power is off. But I don't know how far they have implemented that program. At least if they had implemented that program, people like the hairdresser, the barber shop, those people will have been able to operate their businesses 24 hours or as they like, and they will have been able to make to sustain their revenues. And then in terms of the long-term solution, basically more about increasing our power base. Of course, the government has announced some fantastic ideas. The issue then is we are still looking at how they implement those ideas.
Sabisi, when we say SMEs in Ghana, we mean really small, businesses. But supplying solar energy is there for them to be able to operate their machines, or just to switch on the light and the fan? Because to get enough solar to run any decent sized equipment, it's not easy. Solar, you need a big. Is that what we're looking to supply, or just so that you can turn on your lights?
No, we are here today just because of, I think, that previous government or successive government did not plan to add a lot of power, or can kind of expand what we have already.
We're still not planning.
Yes. That's the challenge we have.
Yeah, but what about previous? Even in the crisis, we're not planning it.
Yes. So the current government, we are blaming the current government because he asked us to vote for him, and it's in power now. So today, you need to do a lot for us. Thank God he's trying to put some things in power, like Sulemana said, short term and long term. Like those solar panels, when they come, it is difficult for them to power some kind of equipment or gadgets. For instance, the hairdresser who uses this dryer, it takes a lot of clients. Sometimes most of their shops are fitted with air conditions, and the solar panels cannot power those ones. So I think that it behoves on the individuals like us to understand that the government is doing something for us in the long term. So for the short term now, we have to take the solar panel and use the equipment or gadget that we need now to do the right job. If people come, they need to, sometimes when they go to the salon, they need to go and sit in the dryer to dry their hair. So what they can do is that, so I understand you can, after touching your hair, you can sit outside for it to dry a bit. Yes, yeah, so you can, instead of sitting under the dryer, normally, yeah, so usually what you need to educate them on it is that we're having this difficulty or challenges. So because of that, we cannot power our hair dryers and air conditions, so that I can just sit. Some people even go home and come the next day to do it. So yes, because I can tell you that there's no way the solar panels could power the hair dryers and the air conditions in those places. And everybody wants to have a cold air now. Somebody will put up a small container and will put an AC instead of just putting windows for air to blow or ventilation. No, natural one, no. So I think that the short-term thing that the solar panel, it might help in a way, but it goes on the individual operating the kind of business to understand the challenges we are in now, the times we are in now, to be able to adapt and adjust to it. Then you can go forward. because it will help that person not to go and buy a generator or diesel fuel to be running the AC, and then sometimes if nobody even comes to the shop, they are enjoying the AC.
It's not as easy as it sounds, but I mean, so far, I think about 13,000 people, have lost their jobs, and that's what's on record.
Yeah.
And I'm sure more people will be losing their jobs. So the reality on the ground is, really big. And with your short-term measures, could we avert this? Or I mean, for the reason I'm saying that, this thing's been going on for the last 3 years. So, I mean, I'm sure the likes of you should have said that, look, because this thing is not stopping, in the next 1 year or the next 6 months, this is where we'll be. And by December, if indeed this problem will be solved in December, where will we be? And how many more people would have lost their jobs?
Just to respond to that, if you look at the loss of jobs, you say around 13,000. It's important to also know that the loss of jobs is not just only to Dumso. It goes beyond that. We also have global commodity prices such as oil and gold prices are weak. That is why companies like Tullow Oil, Anglo Gold decided to cut down their output and even lay down some workers because global prices for their commodities were down. So this has contributed. And then,
so then let's look at the percentage and see what percentage went out through Dumso and what percentage went out through Tullow, and gold. Yeah.
Yes, I think that a bigger percentage more likely will come from Dumso because a lot of manufacturing businesses will have to slow down their production capacity, which means that if I have slowed down my production capacity, I have to lay off some workers because I wouldn't need them anymore. And so that is going to contribute to that. And indeed, the plans that we have put in place to end the crisis, I mean, we have given the business community some timelines. And based on the delivery of the government to its promises, I think that the business community don't wholeheartedly believe some of the things that they promise in terms of deadlines. So when people are planning, sometimes they don't take into consideration some of the measures that government said they will put in place, given that they didn't deliver in the recent past. For instance, they said power badges were coming end of April. I mean, we've not had it up to now. So if you tell us that you end the crisis by end of the year, how should we believe you if you couldn't deliver something in April? And after now, we can't tell when actually it will be delivered. So I think if we are not putting it under control, more people will lose their jobs by end of the year because the supplementary power is raising the cost of production for a lot of businesses. And some of them, it has reduced their profitability greatly. Some of them even posted losses in 2014. For instance, Unilever Ghana posted loss in 2014. Guinness Ghana Brewery also posted a loss in 2014. I mean, Farm Milk didn't post a lot, but its profitability went down significantly because of the energy crisis and the depreciation of the currency.
Is the government or the state or institutions, are they bothered?
Well, in terms of the government, they are bothered because it is having an impact on the economic activity and economic growth. It is important to know that economic growth is expected to drop from 4.2% last year to 3.5% this year. And if you look at our historical economic growth over the last 20 years, this is the weakest growth we've experienced in Ghana. The last time we had economic growth below 4% was in 1994, which was 3.5%. And this year we expect it to be that same 3.5%, which means that the picture is not good. And I don't expect government to be happy about the situation.
Sammy, but I don't see any agency. I don't see any trade fairs or business fairs, or I don't see anything other than everybody just being left to their faith and see what happens. You know, once upon a time, we used to do 24 hours. Now, at midday, we need to shut down and, you know, come back on again. I don't see anything from government side. I don't know. Maybe I haven't heard, if you know of anything.
No, I don't know anything. But what I would like to say is that, see, this unreliability of the timetable of the ECG counts in the sense that, you see, when the staff of those the companies are aware of those schedules that we have like today, sometimes when they have the plan and the ECG doesn't follow it properly or appropriately or religiously, what happens is when the staffs are being told to maybe go home and come this time that ECG says they're going to have power to come and produce, some staff show like this attitude to the job. So by so doing, that is where sometimes most of them, the employers will look at them and see maybe they are not willing to work or sacrifice for the company, whilst they are making sacrifice and buying diesel and stuff like that. And the government is saying that they are fixing it, and whilst we are not seeing anything, the individual themselves, the employees themselves, need to show a lot of commitment to the job. I think that is why some employers, when they see that there's no commitment on the part of the employees to helping them, that's where they lay them off. That's one aspect, because I know of a company that, because of this unreliability of the power schedules or timetable, when they tell staff to go home when they don't have light, and when they have light, they should all come to produce at this point. When they come, because there are a lot at that time, people don't seem to kind of like want to work. They will stand aloof and look at the others, they're working. So by so when the supervisor or the owner of the organization comes around, he will not want to see people standing aloof. So that is where sometimes it tells you to go home. It's all boiled down to the doomsday issue. Now, the government's plan towards this, by word of mouth, lip service that they are put into this, we don't know the exact time that they are going to deliver on this. But I will say that maybe we need to bear with them. There are a lot of things that they need to do for us. For instance, they're giving us a lot of promises in their manifesto. So maybe trying to just use some funds to solve all those ones. But I think they need to prioritize and see that they need to solve or fix this doomsday problem. When they fix it, when businesses do well, people will in turn kind of like say they have done well for them and they can keep them in power for God knows how long. But otherwise, when they don't prioritize and say, let us hold on to some of the promises that we have in our manifesto and fix this particular, because I don't think that they foresaw that the doomsday was going to go to this extent. Of course, nobody is God to say that or to envisage that rains are not going to come this early and this so much this time to fill the Akosombo Dam. But they need to sometimes prioritize and leave some of their, what we call the promises that they've given Ghanaians aside and invest in the power sector so that we can have a stable power and businesses can thrive for standard of living or economic growth to just be in this economy.
Suleiman, is it a good time to look at agriculture? Because I know agriculture too is slowing down. Is it a good time to look at agriculture? Because mainly our agriculture is subsistence farming, and they may not need too much energy in, doing your 1 acre, 2 acre. Is it a good time to look at that area and, see if we can boost the economy from that side? I don't know.
Yes, I think I will agree with you on that. If you look at the recent GDP data from the Ghana Statistical Service over the first quarter of the year, you realize that there was slowdown in growth across all sectors, agric, industrial, and then the services sector. I mean, the agric sector, I think that, as you said, we don't need power in agric sector. We only need to fuel the tractors and the other equipments to work in the farms. So if we can give enough support to farmers to move beyond subsistence to commercial level in this period of time, I think we can boost growth from the agriculture sector.
I mean, so then my next question is, why is there not a revolution in that direction yet?
I believe that will depend on government policy. And for you to have such a revolution in agriculture, you need all parties to buy into it. I think we will need the backing of the whole Ghana. I mean, not just the party in power. You need the backing of the opposition and other parties so that when they come to power, they will have a commitment to continue that program. Because most of the time, we have fantastic programs that we start. And when there is a change of government and there's no commitment to continue from where the previous government left, then we have issues.
I'm expecting, Sammy, that by now businesses would have been told, either by Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Finance, that look, in 6 months' time, this is how dire you're going to, this is how things are going to be. But we seem to be surprised at where we find ourselves, even though, as you've said, we never invested in the past. Yes, still, we are all surprised that we are here now. But where else should we have been? If you have no energy, how else were industries going to power it? So why are we all surprised, and why are we all jumping up and down now?
It is because we never thought, like you already said that, we never thought that we'll be here this time around. And I don't even think that the government knows that this will extend to this 3 years into this power crisis. I don't think the government think that we'll be in it till now. So I think that business needs to right now think outside the box of an alternative way of helping themselves. Now, I don't know, like I said, I think that the business cannot themselves go and try to build a dam. It is difficult. Business cannot afford to do that. And if they want to build that dam, what would they even build it? And would they come together, like form a consortium and build a dam so that they can just power their companies? I don't see it happening. So what business need to do today is, I think they need to give or suggest ways of how government can solve the problem for them in the short term. Because if government alone is suggesting that you will do it this way and it's not doing, businesses can suggest or meet government some ways at some points to be able to maybe sort some things out for them.
Well, one of the suggestions here by the IEA report says there's a need to ensure a stable microeconomy environment to guarantee certainty in investment and business planning. In this regard, sound public financial management is critical in creating a more conducive environment with respect to the cost of credit, exchange rate, and lower inflation. I'm going to come straight back, and that's what we're talking about. This is Killing Business, and I'm talking to Suleimana Mohammed, financial research specialist, and Samuel Seshi, who's a financial expert. Now, apart from all these problems that we are listing here, energy, price of fuel, there is the exchange rate, which is also seems to have a mind of its own. And 1 minute you get, some funds in the country, this billion, that billion, it stabilizes it for a while. As soon as it finishes, it's off again. I mean, is it ever going to get to a time where it will be predictable to do business with? Because it must be a huge challenge, for people to do business in a currency which, can't predict it within 2 months. You don't know whether you have the same value or not.
Yes, you are absolutely right. A lot of businesses are concerned. I happened to have been at a forum this morning, and the focus was on how businesses can manage the situation. Obviously, the long-term solution for this lies with the government, in the sense that we need to slow down spending, we need to help reduce import because we are an import-dependent economy, and so we import for wholesale and retail, which is affecting the level of currency that we need to import, and that reduces our international reserves. Secondly, we have weak global prices for oil and gold from where we were earning foreign reserves. So that means that our earnings expectations has gone down this year. So in the long term, we are hoping that when oil prices picked up and then gold prices strengthen, that should enable government to mobilize enough foreign reserve to support the currency. But until then, I don't think businesses should sit down and wait for the government. There are measures that businesses can put in place to manage the situation for themselves. For instance, we have certain businesses that depend heavily on imported raw materials. Now that the cedi exchange rate is high, when you import your raw material, what it means is that your cost of production will go up significantly and your gross profit margins will also reduce as a result. Why don't you switch to local raw materials? And if you are not getting it in Ghana, why don't you explore some of the neighboring countries? Because when I look at the cedi against the Nigerian naira or the CFA for French-speaking West Africa, it actually appreciated from the beginning of this year. So if you're actually importing your raw materials from Cote d'Ivoire, Senegal, or Nigeria, you will have better managed your FX risk. And secondly, it's important for businesses to also realize that when a currency is depreciating that fast, it's not advisable for you to go to the bank to borrow loans in hard currency, in dollars. And this is especially sensitive if you are earning your revenue in cedis and then you go for a dollar loan. It becomes difficult for you to manage your cash flows. So I would say that businesses should always go for local currency loans in the current situation in which we find ourselves. That can reduce a lot of stress for them. And then finally, I also like to say that in terms of people making investment, if you already have USD and you want to invest that money, some people sometimes convert to cedi before they make the investment. Why don't you look for dollar investment? We have Euro bonds issued by Ghana. I think we've so far issued about 3 Euro bonds. So it's available in the market for people to invest in.
Let me just say that we're going to speak to George Ofori, who is the Ghana Union, president of the Ghana Union Traders Association, but we are not getting through. So if we did get through, we'll speak to him. But Sammy, this currency issue, it's almost been perpetual with us. I mean, are we saying that there's no way that we can put a plan in place that maybe in 5 years' time we level this thing once and for all? Because, you know, it's every day, you know, the cedi seems to be dropping. We've reduced, you know, taking some zeros off is still not helping. I mean, so now you're talking $1 to nearly 40,000 old Ghana cedis. And I'm sure one day we'll be sitting here, we'll be talking about one being 200,000 again, because it just keeps dropping and we don't seem to bridge it. And like Sulemana says, we're just importing. We've refused to patronize anything local.
No, I think that businesses need to think out of the box, like going the normal way. Let us look at, we have a lot of natural resources in this country. I think that we've relied on the government so much to start or take the initiative on those areas for us.
But that's because they are capital intensive.
Yes, but so we can partner. This private, the minister for minister at the presidency, Rashid Peralpo, we can private partnership, public partnership thing the government talks about. They can come together and then sometimes tap into those resources, those natural resources, so that at least most of the things that we import from outside, they put the pressure on our currency. If we're able to, you know, go into that kind of agreement with the government, and some things the government can do more, like much for us, the government will do that, and then the private sector will help in the management of it, so that at least we don't import a lot. And sometimes we even import some of the human resource from outside, like consultants to come and do work for us. When they come and they're doing the work for us, we have to pay them in a hard currency, not even in the local currency. They see that for them to stay here a bit, to enjoy the money or spend their money in this country. We pay them the foreign currency and they take it back. And it all put pressure on us. It's just a matter of we being able to identify those resources. If you don't have it, you can write about it or write proposals, send it to government, and government should have a platform or a way of inviting people, individuals, to tap into everything that we import. We can get it from this country. God has blessed us with that. But it is because we continuously import. And not only importing, for us to, even when we need to pay, there was this man who wanted to, buy a vehicle. Buying the vehicle, he says that because of the way the city is depreciating and the dollar, today somebody was telling me that the dollar is 4.2. And I said, how? Wow. And I said, then he says that he believes that in the next few weeks, the dollar will hit 4.5. So he has gone to change his cedis that is God into dollars. Why would you do that? Like Nana said.
The money from depreciating.
You see, Banana, if you continue to do that, the citizenry also needs to know that this country belongs to us. So let us do a lot to save it.
No, see, but the thing is,
the government need to take initiative, and then the citizen we need to see their commitment from the government.
That's what I'm saying. If the government had taken an initiative, it then gives you confidence that, oh, they have done A, B, C, D, therefore this will stabilize. But you're sitting there, nothing is happening. So you know that, true to the matter, this city is going to fall. In the next few minutes, I won't be able to buy the spare tire. So I'd rather convert it to dollars so that whenever the car comes to the market, I can buy it.
Yes, that is true. That is true. But I think last week or 2 weeks ago, the Ministry of Trade and then IEA held a conference on this interest rate or cost of borrowing stuff. They discussed a lot of things that I think that were worth listening to, and then businesses need to listen to them and then maybe use them to work. For instance, I think that when businesses per se decide and go to government and say we want to assess, you want to help us do this project or that project, I don't think government will not be willing to do it, because government will want that the business to go and then have that name for itself.
Well, I've become a crusader for GOIL, and I'm saying that we should all buy from GOIL because they will keep the profits here rather than the foreign competitors who would sell you at the same price but expatriate their profits. So there should be a crusade in our championing things that are solely Ghanaian. And so I've started my own unofficial campaign that, look, let's all buy from GOIL, because the amount of monies they use to buy this crude are huge. And therefore, if we don't buy from them or buy from other places, we lose too much money. And I think there should be that, buy Ghana.
Why is it that businesses, when the things that they produce even in this country, we know that cost of borrowing is high, and cost of kind of like getting the raw materials to do the business is difficult or is challenging, if I should put it that way. So whatever we produce in this country is more expensive than things that come from outside. Why that? Why at least something that you get in Ghana here, made in Ghana product, you can get it I think 120 cedis or 500 cedis, and when you get the same thing imported, you might get it at, let's say, 50 cedis or 40 cedis. Why do we do that to ourselves? It's just that maybe the profit margin that the local businesses put, the margins that they put on it is too high, just because of the cost of borrowing, and then maybe most of economic factors are not maybe favorable to them.
I think you raised a very good point. Let me bring you in here. Are we too obsessed with profit, kill me quick business, put all our margins on one item, hoping to, make a killing once and for all? Or genuinely our cost of production is a bit too high?
Well, generally cost of production is high. However, as he rightly mentioned, I believe what he said about you comparing the prices of some Ghanaian products to imported products. And you will notice that for some of the products, the prices might be the same. So you have imported a known brand that is known not just in Ghana, but across the world. And then you have a local brand, and then you want your price to be at par with them. whereas when I take your brand out of Ghana, nobody knows about it. Yeah. How do you want me to leave that brand and come and buy yours? So I think for some SMEs that I have seen, pricing has been their main issue, because for you to make the leap from being an SME to a bigger company, you need to produce for the mass market. But if you start as an SME and you produce your goods and you position yourself such that only some certain level of people can afford your products, it means that you will never be in a position to produce for the mass market. Yeah. And for you to make sustainable profits, you need to move from producing for few people to the mass market. And pricing is important here.
And I think it's a culture that we haven't developed, that we need to mass produce.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I think that, yes, like Suleiman already said, you know, people need to produce for the mass market. But, you know, because now a lot of people, like we say, we are middle class people. A lot of people are middle class. So by virtue of that, when somebody is producing something, his plan, or, you know, before that is going to produce for this middle class people, where you can make more money from them. So instead of putting a little margin, profit margin, let's say 2% or 5% on it, he wants to get maybe 150%. To go. And when you do that, it's not possible.
No, sometimes I wonder if we do that 2%, 3% profit margin, I'm sure about 90% of businesses would have collapsed in Ghana by now, because how would they be able to fuel their generators? You know, if they had done that
in
these times,
yes.
You know, so sometimes it goes back to tell you how we have overpriced to even stay in business. You know, to even stay in business.
No, but government itself is adding a lot of, you know, this fuel price is adding a lot of taxes. You know, so if you also want to kind of like increase the cost of your item, let's say by 15%. Let us, maybe the financial person of your organization will give us the basis of increasing to that. And when people question why Ghanaian products are so expensive, then maybe you can have a platform to discuss and say that because of ABC, that is why, you know, it is this expensive.
Yeah, we can't finish this decision today, but I hope that very soon there will be a wave of urgency directed towards industry and economy, so that we get the economy moving again. But I want to say thank you to Tantees Fashion, who designs all the African prints or African shirts that I wear on the program. And Tantees' number is 0243 662001. The number is 0243 662001. You can find them, Tantees Fashion, on Facebook too. I want to say thank you to Sulemana, thank you to Sami, and I hope we'll bring you back to continue this discussion, because it hasn't ended yet. Folks, thank you very much for watching. Tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again.